This is MedSat Medical Terminal, proud home of the finest physicians in the Quadra system. If it's broken, we can mend it. If it's bleeding, we can stem it. If it's spreading, we can halt it. If it's sagging, we can lift it. MedSat, where medicine is at. Professional, affordable, receiving patients now.
Will that do?
Lexx, set course for that satellite.
Stop. We're back.
Need a voice warm up.
Stop it. It has been months, I tell you. Hi, I'm Rachel.
Microphone, I barely knew her.
Get out of here.
Blame it on the shots.
Hi, I'm Rachel.
And I'm Matt.
And this is
The Dead Do Not Podcast.
a Lexx Rewatch.
Just a bumbling security guard in the great wide galaxy. Till one day he was dealt a different card in the form of a key. This key controlled the most powerful weapon ever made. Now he had it by sheer accident, or maybe it was fate. What a cast of characters all on the spacecraft traveling. A woman named Zev who escaped from her programming. The disembodied robot head that got brainwashed instead. And Kai, the always glum undead assassin. In this space adventure you never know what comes next. So come join the crew for tales of sci-fi, laughter, and sex on the Dead Do Not Podcast. Watching Lexx.
Hey,
we did it!
we even remembered our own intro. Woo! Okay, so we're back. Welcome back, Matt.
We're back just in time for the apocalypse, apparently.
Yeah. Oh, I know, because we rolled back in right about the time that Hurricane Helene decided to pay us a
Also
visit.
rolled in.
We're fine. We're fine. What we
Just
might
wet
not
chickens.
What we might not be fine after is the fact that we haven't been home in 2 months, and usually we make a beverage to sip on while we record. And I poured the end of about 4 different liquor/mixer bottles into a cup, and we are about to drink that because that's what we have in the house.
Time to clean out, reset,
So,
refresh.
If Lexx season 2, episode 3 never posts, I just want you all to know we died doing what we love. Drinking trash and talking shit.
Nice.
So we're about to do Lexx season 2, episode 2, Terminal. What do you think that means, Matthew? Terminal.
Well, terminate means to end.
I know, but in the context of the episode. Terminal. What happens at the end of this episode, or should we save it?
Oh,
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was. There are no beginnings or endings to the turning of the wheel. But
In an age long past, in an age yet to come.
this was a beginning
Yeah.
and an ending.
And ending. Lexx does not have a cold open. I think we've talked about that before. They just sort of start with the intro, like start with the music, and then we go straight into the episode.
Right.
They're
Yeah.
like, warm people up, hook them. Nah, we got them. Relax. Fuck y'all. Watch the show.
This is not Star Trek. We don't need to hook people.
We don't need to, you know what you signed up for. Watch the fucking episode. What we do open with, though, is Zev singing Kai's song in her crawl-style drapery bedroom. Real sadly, as we slowly zoom in on her face.
Yeah, she's very pensive, just killing some time.
She must be so horny. Poor
This is
Oh,
probably how she spends
Ronan
most of her
G.
time pining after Kai.
Yeah. Are there words, or is it just
Yeah, I think it's words.
every once in a
It's
while it
just in
sounds
the
like
Brunan
G.
G language
Yeah.
rather than the galactic common language.
But Stan is being real classy and walking around in the background while she's singing sadly to herself in her bedroom. So he's basically in her bedroom while she's having a moment. Maybe she's in the only bedroom.
Ooh, yeah. This could be literally the only bedroom, and she's not sharing it.
Yeah. Which, makes sense. So,
Well, 790's in there with her, right?
I took these notes 2 months ago before we left on our trip. So this is like having a conversation with my past self, more so than usual, because usually there's about a 2-day gap. But my next line is this like falling in love with an ancient fae prince? Like, is that what it must be like in this universe?
As Kai
Because
being
Kai
the ancient fae prince.
is the last of the Brunan G. He's the last of a mythical race of humans who
Yeah.
hailed from the dark universe and came to the light universe and were sufficiently technologically advanced to defeat the insect civilization and then take on the shadow, who it turns out is also the insect civilization, but that's fine. It's fine. So, like, is that what this would be like? Would it be like if Thranduil showed up and you're like, oh my God, but he's undead and a little bit sad and you don't actually get to be with him.
Right, and he's only able to come out like 2 days of every month or something.
Yeah. It's kind of like a slightly more available version of the last movie installment that I will recognize of the Pirates of the Caribbean, where he becomes Davy.
Yeah,
Jack.
he takes over the ship.
He takes over the Flying Dutchman, and he can only come on land every so often.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it must be like, right? Is like, that's what Stan is competing with. He's competing with like the last
supernatural entity.
Yeah, the last of a mythical, like the last Roman legionnaire or something like that. If you want to equate it to the Roman Empire, which I don't ever think about the Roman Empire, so I never got that joke. Do you ever think about the Roman Empire? Not that we're like not months past this.
When this was going around, our niece asked me, how often do I think about the Roman Empire?
Yeah. How'd that go?
I said maybe once a year, but
I know
the path that is the path that is laid in my mind for the Roman Empire always goes back to
Wow, I really want to watch Gladiator.
actually, okay. Interestingly enough,
Uh-huh.
the movie Gladiator is not attached to the abstraction of the Roman Empire in my mind. If somebody said, tell me about a movie in the Roman Empire, Gladiator doesn't come up. Gladiator is a separate thing for me. It's not contaminated with any kind of abstract academic perception of the Roman Empire.
That's really interesting because it's like the most Roman Empire. They
It
even
is.
march into Rome.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And I know that, but
Okay, no, I get you. It's fine.
There's no significant connection there for me.
Yeah.
The only real significant connection with the Roman Empire, like the flip in my brain that gets switched, is from this interview with Jim Butcher when he was talking about this series that he wrote called The Furies of Calderon. And
I think we've had this discussion.
yeah, and I think it was
Pokemon
corroborated.
and the Roman Empire.
Yeah, they said it was like a challenge. Like after a convention, they were at a like drinking party, and there was some kind of challenge. Like, he's like, give me 2 random subjects that you think could never work together, and I'll write a story about it.
Yeah.
Or
I always
something
get that
like that.
one confused with the Stormlight Archive, the Spren versus the Furies.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
they're very similar. They're forces of nature. But the lore is that Jim Butcher there was this like a bet, a challenge, And the challenge was write a story that's a crossover between Pokemon and the Roman Legion. Or maybe it was specifically the Lost Roman Legion. And so that's basically what it is.
Yeah, that's the only time you think about it. I love that for you. I do. Because Jim Butcher's a good author, and that's a good... That's good.
The Fears of Calderon is good. It's not... it's definitely not as mature or nuanced as the Dresden Files.
Yeah.
It's not as, like, emotionally immersive as the Dresden Files is. But... it is a good, like, epic fantasy series.
Yeah. Well, back in our episode...
Oh, right. We're talking about Lexx.
Yeah. Zev is staring off into space. At this point, her face is taking up almost the entire frame. Her tears are overflowing her eyes. She's sadly singing, staring off into the distance, dreaming about her lost and slightly unavailable love, Kai. And then Stanley decides to interrupt with his own little ditty because that's the perfect fucking moment for him to shoot his shot. And he's like, you need a man, a red hot loving Stan.
As horny as you think Zev might be.
Oh, Stanley's orders of magnitude more than that.
Well, it may be like, how horny am I in comparison to like my maximum capacity for horniness.
Okay.
And Stan is like
it's percentage loan
bumping
to value
up against the limit. Like he is at
he wants
capacity.
to be bumping up against the limit.
But I think Zev's like actual horniness is probably higher, but then her capacity is
much higher.
Multiples greater than that. So she's not maxing out, but she's still like way hornier
than you didn't let me get
Stan is.
You didn't let me finish his ditty.
I wanted to get something in before there's a C word that I'm trying to think of.
Completion?
No, it has to do with desecration. Sorry. Stan is totally ruining the mood.
He's fucking with the mood. He's ruining the vibe, man.
He's corrupting. He's corrupting the vibe.
If you want to be satisfied, I'm your guy. Forget Kai. That's his whole ditty.
Kudos for putting a Kai rhyme in his proposition.
I'm not comfortable with how attracted I am to the actor who plays Stan. I don't know if that's ever happened to you. You're like, objectively, I don't want to like this person, but I find myself liking this person, and I don't really know where to slot that right now.
There's a whole range of, I am not attracted to this person's personality, but I am attracted to their body. And then there's the opposite end of the spectrum, or the, two-dimensional field, where I'm attracted to their personality, but not their body.
Yeah. Except for how he treats Zev. I actually like the whole package. I don't know how I feel about that. I just need to sit with it, okay? So we'll readdress this later when he's shirtless.
He doesn't really compromise his ideals.
Yeah.
Right? He's a whole person.
Yeah. I mean, I expected to be here for Michael McManus, Beehive aside. I kind of expected to be here for Ava Haberman, and I'm not. But I did not expect to be here for Stanley Tweedle. And I just need to sit with that. And we'll readdress it later towards the end where he's not wearing his hat and he's shirtless. Anyway, so.
Did you see which way he was tucked under the hospital sheet?
I was trying not to look. So okay. 790 pipes in after Stanley's little ditty because 790 feels like this is the perfect time to also sing his own song, because if anything is consistent in this show, it's that Zev never gets a moment where someone's not trying to fuck her.
Except when Kai is around.
Yeah, which is probably why she likes him. Because 790 goes, you need me, 790. I'm the tech for you, sweet pea. And
So
then
this kind of reminded me the topic of Zev like wanting to be with Kai in the context of Kai does not like actively want to have penetrative sex with her like everybody else she meets.
yeah.
Reminds me and that's why Zev likes Kai.
Yeah.
So I've been reading Empire of the Vampire,
Yes. Which we will be doing
which
for
we'll
the
be covering
Strange and Beautiful Book
on our
Club.
book club podcast.
Yeah.
And there's a scene where Chloe is talking to him about like, oh, hey, here's what we're doing, and he kind of shares
Him being the main character.
his situation.
Gabriel.
Right, Gabriel.
Mhm.
And he reveals that, oh yes, the two of us met when we were both like initiates into these organizations who swear celibacy and whatever. But stuff has happened. It's like 10 or 15 years later. And yeah, your BFF from when we were like in school together, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, me and her moved south and we have a baby. And she's like, oh my God. Okay, you don't need to go with us any farther.
Yeah.
I don't want to keep you from them. So we're going to go and you get back to your family.
Yeah.
And he's like, nah, I can go with you as far as
This
like
river.
this place.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, like I deliberately didn't ask you to do that. And he says, that's why I'm willing to do it.
Yeah.
Because you refrained from asking.
Right. Because you didn't demand that I do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 790 and Stan start fighting over Zev, and the background music slowly changes from dramatic to farcical because even the show knows that they've really brought the tone of the moment down.
Ugh.
And then Zev is like, fuck, I'm out. I'm going to go wake up Kai. And they're like, for what though? And she's like, because I want to talk to him, because I want to hang out. I don't fucking know. Because you guys are Debbie Downers and I want to go hang out with the cool guy. Okay. And Stan's like, but he only has months. Like, we only have enough proto blood for a month. And as far as they know, that's it. Like, they don't have another source of it.
Right.
And those can go by so quick. So stay with us. Gorgeous. It's not going to work. Okay. Like, you guys ruined her moment. You did not respect her feelings. She's going to go wake the guy that kind of sort of enjoys hanging out with her for her. He likes her for her, not because she's a sex slave. Anyway, so
so the sex slave thing keeps getting brought up.
Yeah.
And yes, she has the body of a sex slave.
Right.
But that's not what she is.
Right. But physically, she is.
Yeah.
Physically, they are getting all of the signals of this is a love slave. But mentally, she's not there with them.
Right.
And so if this is a thing,
she is not.
then this is clearly a thing that exists in their world because everyone can identify what she is on sight. So Stanley has a very pre-programmed idea of what a sex slave would be like and what they would be willing to do with him.
I'm sure Stanley is very familiar with the dynamics of sex slaves in the Empire of the Shadow.
Right. If not personally, then from literature.
Oh, no. I bet Stanley has personal experience with, was it love slaves or sex slaves?
Love slaves.
Okay.
Yeah, they're love slaves. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're love slaves. In my head, they're love slaves.
Except the doctor in this episode refers to her as a sex slave. But ostensibly, he was not part of the League of 20,000 Planets because the planets in the League of 20,000 Planets
We're all cleansed.
were all cleansed.
Yeah.
So this is some
bullshit.
Some extant civilization.
Yeah.
Some adjacent civilization to the League planets. because they are back in the light universe at this point.
Right. Yeah. The whole dark universe thing, we jaunted over there for a little bit in the first movies, but I don't know if we go back or not, but we're not there now. We're back in their original universe.
Season 2, episode 1, they return to the light universe.
Yeah.
Because the shadow in Kai, the unintegrated shadow in Kai.
Yes, needed them to come back. And they were like, but wait, we burned our bridge. We can't go back. And he's like, there's more bridges. That's fine. And then we met Mantrid, and we don't need to recap Mantrid like at all. It's fine. So they go back down to the chamber where Kai is sleeping, and apparently it's been fixed, or they just decided to use the one next to it, which has been fine all along. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But Stanley decides he's going to wake Kai up for her, which is weird.
I love his description, like his argument for why he should be operating the control panel, which I think he did it a couple times in the first season, which was him arguing for his competency as, hey, I'm almost certified.
Yeah. I know. Because Zev is like, I can do this myself. I do it every night. And he's like, no, I'm almost certified. And it's a delicate machine, one that's completely broken forever and ever just a few episodes ago. That one. And 790's like, yeah, so stand aside and let me tell Zev how to do it, because 790 can operate everything. So I don't know why they don't just have 790 do it.
Another commentary on 790. 790 really reminds me of Bob from the Dresden Files.
Oh, yeah.
Where
he's
Bob
just a skull and sex
Bob
obsessed.
is a spirit of knowledge.
Yeah.
A spirit of the air, like who specializes in intelligence and knowledge, whatever.
Yeah.
Who inhabits a skull as like a safe dwelling place, and is consulted for
and is sometimes
advice.
The cat too.
Sometimes, yes. Yeah. You get right along.
Yeah.
Yeah. And 790 feels very much like Bob, because Bob is also very horny. Bob
he is, yeah. He likes romance novels.
Yes.
Yeah. So they get the pod open, and 790 is like, oh, you idiot, you did it in the wrong way. And Stan is like it fucking matters. Well, it does actually fucking matter, because Kai wakes up and goes, I kill you now in the name of his divine shadow. Caw-caw! He kills Stanley.
With is it the brace?
The brace, but it's the caw-caw. I don't give a shit. It's never the brace. It's the caw-caw. So he kills Stan with his caw-caw because, why not? Of course. Great way to open an episode. And so they're like, oh shit, put Stan in the cryopod quick. So they like stick him in the cryopod to keep him alive. And then they're like, oh no, his heart is completely pulverized, but he has time to be like, Zev, I love you. Like to talk and look around. And so it's like pulverized a bit. I don't know. They're future humans. Maybe they can live without their heart for a little bit. I don't know. But Zev gets the key from Stan. She's like, give me the key, Stan. And Stan's like, I love you. And she's like, give me the key, Stan. Come on. You're going to leave us stranded, like dead in the water. Give us the key. And he's like,
he's
totally
fading
not having
fast.
it.
So she gives him a big old kiss.
Yeah. So she makes out with him for a second. And then he's like, and then he gives her the key. And then they freeze him.
Ever took.
Stanley does respond to need after all, because in the end, when we're talking to the doctor, they're like, it responds to need, like to you needing to give it up, or to then, that's what makes the key pass. So Stanley's need passes the key to Zev.
It's an act of release.
Yeah, it is, finally. And the only one he will ever get was Zev. And then 790 goes, isn't it just wonderful how some days turn out? And it's like, okay,
790 is ecstatic this whole episode.
I know. Well, until they save Stan, which, spoiler alert, right. They save Stanley. But like, what now? Stanley's frozen in a cryo chamber. Zev has the key, but like, and then you know what? To this show's credit, as little as they give a shit about any kind of continuity, there was a moment not too long ago when Stanley's hand got cut off, and we just reattached it in this vial of like juice.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
so Zev is like, oh, we used that thing to reattach his hand before. Can't we do that again?
The-
Oh, hey,
I think it was like
that's more continuity
the
than Forever Night
protein-
ever had.
I think they called it the protein recombinator.
Or yeah, whatever. Like we put his hand back on because remember they put it back on backwards and he had two of the hands in the same direction. And so they took it off, I guess, and put it back on the correct way. But Kai is like, excellent question, Zev. However, he would die before we could use that to fix him. I mean, he seemed kind of okay when you guys froze him. So I don't know.
And he was bleeding out this big hole in his chest.
Yeah,
so.
but he was, it wasn't like quickly. Anyway, but he's like, no, Zev, his heart was shattered. He would suffer brain death long before we could repair him. So Kai is now walking around because his pod is occupied.
Even though there's like 3 other pods in
He
the room.
could really just go in another pod. This continuity error would be so easy to fix.
Okay.
I'm never going to
As
let it
loose
go.
As this show plays it,
I'm going to let it go.
there were a few plot points in this episode that felt contrived. And should we assume listeners have watched the episode?
I mean, no. No. Because I know
Okay,
for a fact
so
that
we
some of
we
our
can maintain the suspense.
Strange and
then.
Beautiful Network fans are listening to this as their only way that they're interacting with Lexx, which is perfectly fine. I get it. Lexx is it's kind of like black
It's an
coffee.
acquired
It's
flavor?
an acquired flavor.
Like Sambuca or Vermouth.
Yeah, some people just love it right away, and some people just need time and continuous exposure to realize how fun it is. But what it really felt like is Ava Haberman was like, oh my God, you guys, my calendar's just not lining up. I'm going to have to drop out. And they were like, okay. And so they just quick wrote an episode to swap her out.
This feels like either they'd pre-written some plot lines for characters to exit the show, or yes, for actors to exit the show, but then thought, we're never going to use these.
Yeah.
And so they never like polished it. And then Ava was like, scheduling issues, it's so hard. Like,
yeah.
I'm just going to have to back out of the show. And they're like, shit. Well, at least we wrote an episode. We wrote a plot line for Ava Haberman to leave the show, but to maintain the character Zev.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's dust that off and do that. But then they didn't have time to.
I think this is a
flesh
solid
it out.
episode. It's fine because like from here we go to, I mean, I think it works. Like, I think this all kind of, it works. And it gives us a chance for us to see the characters of the cast of Lexx, like the crew of Lexx from the third party perspective. Like when the doctor is describing them and he's like, the robot head is just a cartoon character. And you're like, well, yeah, exactly. That's correct. Yeah. And you're like, oh, okay. So this show gives you a moment to be like, we are aware. And we, like deuces, we don't give a shit. This is exactly how they're going to be. And now that we've all addressed the elephant in the room of the fact that these are caricatures of characters, and that's like the intention, we can all move on and have a great fucking time from season 2, episode 3 on. So this felt like okay, we need to kind of zip up the remaining little things from season 1.
Right, that's how you elevate like campiness.
Yeah.
Is in universe you acknowledge, yeah, these are caricatures.
Yeah. Which the thing I love about this
is
show,
like borderline satire.
yeah.
And yes, it's acknowledged in universe.
Yeah.
And now we're moving on.
Well, that's the thing I love about this show is it's so campy and it's so satirical, and yet it is played so completely straight.
Yes.
Like this is a legitimate sci-fi
It has to
show.
be, yeah.
And yet it has as much camp and humor and satire as you want to read into it. And almost the greater a sci-fi fan you are, the more humor you can find in the plot lines.
Mm-hmm.
Like the selfless doctor character, everyone knows that character. That's a
Yeah.
Star Trek staple. And we get a chance to flip it on its head in this episode, which we will continue because now I'm going to continue the synopsis. Because Zev takes a moment here to victim shame Stanley. Because Kai is walking around and Kai is upset with himself because he killed his friend. From his perspective, he killed his friend.
It kind of feels like Kai in this show kind of feels like Murderbot.
That's what, remember, we made that parallel,
Yes.
and I love it, and it's exactly
And,
correct, yes.
Specifically in this episode, because Kai has taken it as his, like, new purpose. Like, he's reclaimed his memories, he's rediscovering his identity, he's figuring out, like, who he is, what he's going to be doing.
Yeah.
And when he's overwhelmed, he goes into his stasis chamber
Exactly.
to recharge.
Right, and he has a weapon built into his arm, and he accidentally used it to kill his friend.
And his new purpose is to protect his crew. And so this is a crisis for Kai, because his newfound purpose with his newly reclaimed identity, or freshly reclaimed identity, is to protect his crew.
Right. And he killed one of them.
He fucked it up.
He fucked it up.
Which...
But Zev is like, come on. It's because Stanley woke you up wrong. If he'd done it right, he'd be fine. So obviously, ergo, it is his fault.
And to be fair to Zev's comment, Stanley probably did operate it incorrectly.
And Kai goes,
he was overconfident, and he, by claiming, I'm almost certified, it's like, okay, you just said that you are not fully certified to operate this equipment.
And Kai goes, I am aware of that. Which he's like, yes, I know. He woke me up incorrectly. But like, why am I the kind of creature that if you wake me up wrong, I kill you? Like, I'm not necessarily wrestling with this exact action.
This works.
I'm wrestling with this chain of events and my place in it. And
there's as much depth there as you want to dive into.
Right. And Zev goes, you aren't an assassin anymore. I mean, you're not an assassin anymore. And Kai goes, Stan would disagree.
This is also a recurring theme in the Bourne Identity book series.
I love
not the
how,
movie series.
Like, this is lighting up all of the connections.
Not the movie series. That's
the book
different.
That's different. Yeah.
And I'm still a little salty about how much they... the movies are good.
Movies are good.
For what
books
they
are good.
are.
They're just not the same thing.
Right. The books are a little deeper.
Yeah.
There's a recurring theme in the Bourne Identity book series where Jason Bourne was trained. He was never actually an assassin. He was trained to be like skill equivalent with top level assassins. And I guess as a result of being undercover so long, there's the whole like psychological trauma.
Yeah.
And even after he returns to like his regular civilian life as an like Asian language professor in university, he occasionally has problems with like waking up, oh, I need to defend myself.
Yeah.
Or similar to Kai being abruptly woken up like incorrectly out of cryostasis and like he's right into fight mode.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has all of this programming buried deep down, and every once in a while it gets excavated.
He's been an assassin for a whole lot longer than he's been a protector.
Yeah.
So Zev fires back with, but you also saved his life like a bunch. And me too. And he's like, okay, yeah, but like I've killed a lot more people than I've saved.
Okay, so let's bring up
we're gonna break it down?
Some mythology about Kai.
Okay.
I don't have any hard numbers.
Okay.
Except we know he's over
killed thousands of people.
He's over 2,000 years old.
Yeah. He's not the only assassin available.
Right.
Or he wasn't. He is now, because the rest of them got liquefied.
Cleansed.
Fed to a giant paper mache brain. Oh no, what was the thing that we made in college where they dump a bunch of shit into like a trash can and then you drink it? It was like swamp mix or something like that. We went to the most backwater college. I can't even describe how rural this place was.
The a swamp juice or something?
Swamp juice. That's what it was. Well, we didn't, but we have now because that's basically what this is.
That's basically what you mixed us.
Yeah. The only thing saving it is the blue curacao, which makes it look elevated because it's got a color to it.
Colorful.
It's got a color to it.
Yeah, right. It's not like just the yellow-brown liquor color.
No.
Okay, so Kai has existed
Yep.
for a little over 2,000 years. In between assignments, he goes into his,
Stasis
drawer.
chamber. Yeah, his drawer, his shelf, storage area.
Is he conscious
Probably not.
while he's in the drawer? Probably not. So for him, his existence for the last 2,000 years has consisted of,
Hunting and killing people.
well, getting woken up, given an assignment, performing the assignment. Or what do the kids say these days?
Completing the assignment?
Completing the assignment.
Understanding the assignment.
Yes. Yes. So there's
but not
being
in the
given
I
the
know
assignment.
who to vote for way.
He
Yep.
understands the assignment.
Yep.
He completes the assignment,
Correct.
and then he goes back to sleep. And then for him, instantaneously, he wakes up again
Yeah.
And
He's
is-
just been murdering people on repeat
and understands the
for
next assignment.
2,000 years.
Okay. How often does he get woken up? So what I'm trying to get at is, out of the last 2,000 years,
This feels like the airspeed of an unladen vampire
existence.
discussion.
how much time has he actually been conscious? Like, if you add it
Probably
all
depends
together.
on the amount of time that he had to spend hunting people.
So even if, let's say,
Okay. Well, we know travel is instantaneous because we always just happen to be where we need to be when we need to be there.
let's say 1 day a year,
Okay. That's still 2,000
he gets
days.
woken up.
That's like 8 years.
Well, let's say 1 day a year.
Okay.
Let's say he gets one assignment a year,
Okay.
and on average, the assignment takes a week.
Okay.
So that's 2,000 weeks.
Yeah.
There's
14,000 days.
Well, let's say 50 weeks in a year, just to make it round. And
That's still 7 days, 2,000 years, 14,000 days. The swamp juice has
trying
defeated
to-
Matthew. He's pulling out his calculator.
we're just throwing numbers at me. I'm trying to do head math.
I'm
and-
sorry. I've been
Bleh.
doing rounding and multiplying in the thousands with the kids this week at school.
So 2,000 weeks divided by 52 weeks per year. That's still 38 years.
Okay.
So he looks mid-30s.
Okay.
So if on average he's spent a week a year for the last 2,000 years assassinating people, that means he
He's had
has
a full
38
career.
years
He could retire.
of conscious experience
Yeah.
being an assassin, which is, let's just say he was 38 biologically when he died.
Yeah. Half his life.
A third of his original 38 years would have been spent sleeping. So his conscious experience would have been 25.
Assuming the Brune and G didn't figure out how to not sleep. Yeah.
Yeah, they're humans.
Okay.
So that means he has like 50% more conscious experience of being an assassin
He's been
than
killing
he
people
ever
for
did
a long time.
as a plain old human.
Big long time.
So even at this, like, I just wanted to get an order of magnitude.
Yeah, he saved somebody like twice. And Zev is like, well, you saved him. And he's like, do you have any
Okay, so
conception?
he's had 25 years of
Yeah.
conscious experience as a plain old vanilla human being.
Mm. With a beehive.
Okay, so a slightly
Elevated.
elevated form
Mhm.
of human being.
Yes.
A lot of that 25 years would have just been childhood.
Yeah.
So as an adult, he's probably had like 8 years of conscious experience just trying to be a good vanilla human being.
Yep.
And then he has 38 years
Of wantonly murdering people.
of wantonly murdering people. Of
Yep.
being a murder machine.
And then this lady is like,
And
but you
now-
like saved somebody a couple times or whatever.
He got his memories back, and he's had like 2 weeks of conscious experience.
Yes. This is feeling more and more
Being-
like Murderbot
Being the murder
by the
machine
minute. Yeah.
with a conscience.
Yeah.
So from Kai's perspective, it's really
But
Zev's
how do you,
argument does
how
not
do you
hit.
describe that to her though? You just
Exactly.
don't. You just don't. He's like, okay.
That's how he responds to that.
Yeah, because he goes, I've killed more people than I've saved. Like, let's just sum that up. That the whole like he did all of that mental math. He was like, okay, assume I was woken up one time a year for approximately a week for the last 2000. He did the whole thing,
Yeah.
and then he was like, yeah, I've killed a lot more people than I've saved. And Zev goes, yeah, but that wasn't you though. That was the shadow. You were just following orders. And he's like, I mean, okay, but like, it was me though. Like, it really was me. Because he does not look convinced. And then 790 interrupts this downward spiral into self-reflection that nobody wants. And he goes, horrible news. There's hope for Tweedle. Because they found a medical satellite.
Because they tasked 790 with finding a place that could save Stanley.
Yeah, and he's like,
Unfortunately, I have
sucks.
succeeded in my task.
Yeah. So they
Damn it.
find MedSat, which is the finest hospital in the universe. Proud home of the finest physicians in the Quadra system. MedSat, where the medicine is at. That's what it says. So they boogie on over to it.
So I'm wondering how much communication, how much association did like the culture that produced MedSat, how connected were they to the League of 20,000 Planets?
Yeah.
Has this been like a long time since the shadow was destroyed? Because you could have some weird wibbly wobbly timey-wimey stuff
Yeah.
doing like black hole inter-universe travel. So this could be like a couple hundred years after the fall of the League of 20,000 Planets.
You know what the wibbly wobbly timey-wimey stuff that's happening here is? The summer season break between season 1 and season 2.
Yeah.
Where they're banking on you didn't follow up with the last season. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. We can't bring it up every week because every week we're going to be like, didn't everybody die? I'm pretty sure everybody died. You know what? You just got to, you know what? This is good. It's fine. It's fine. It doesn't matter. The one problem that I do have with this is they're like, hello, MedSat. We are the Lexx. And I'm Captain, acting Captain Zev, and we need to get our buddy fixed because he got his heart imploded or whatever. Total accident, by the way. Can we bring him over there and get him fixed? And then later they're going to be like, oh my God, that is the Lexx. We want the Lexx. It's the most powerful weapon in the known universe.
Who was there to talk about the Lexx?
Well, apparently everybody knew because, it was up on the hill in the cluster. So it was probably a big propaganda campaign. We're going to have a giant, powerful spaceship. Get your shit together or we're going to come blow up your planet, right? I get that. But they could just be like, hi, I am Captain Zev of the Rex. And no one would know, right? No one would know unless they had a picture of what the Lexx looked like.
But this is a character who grew up in a box.
Okay, fine, but it would solve a lot of problems
it
if they just
really
renamed
well
the Lexx.
For Zev's character to have this really mismatched set of social skills.
Yeah.
Of yes, I can converse, but I cannot. And sometimes I can subterfuge, but in a lot of situations I cannot because of her lack of
Yeah.
exposure in different social experiences while she was growing up.
Right. Well, I mean, it's okay. But the point of this scene isn't actually the Lexx. The point of this scene is the low-key commentary on medical care that we get from this first interaction.
From this Canadian TV show about a hyper-capitalist society denying medical care because of lack of funding.
Yeah,
Where did this ever come from?
What sci-fi universe are you referencing? Because they're like, contact the MedSat. We have an emergency. And MedSat's like, okay, cool. Do you have insurance? And they're like, no. And they're like, oh, okay. Do you have any waivers of any kind? No. Okay, that's fine. Cash will be fine. Or precious metals or bankable materials. And Zev's like, we don't have cash or precious metals or bankable materials. And they're like, oh, then you become a 1313. Ignored. Zev is like, you can't do that. And the lady, the Debbie at the door, is like, policy is policy. And Guy's like, well, we'll pay you later. Like, we'll go destroy a planet full of gold or something. And we'll just like rake up some of that shit and bring it to you. And she's like, oh, sorry. We don't accept credit. And Zev is like, oh, okay, Lexx, can you blow up the moon? That little red moon that we just passed, which it turns out is the moon
that MedSat is orbiting?
Yeah, can you blow that up right now? And the lady at the door, like they do, shit gets blown up. And then the lady on the line is like, oh, okay.
Hold, please.
Hold, please. Then Mr. Flagg.
I'm escalating your case.
Mr. Flagg, the chief administrator of this facility, appears and he's like, oh my God, you have an emergency, you say? Well, let's not get hung up on money if a person's life hangs in the balance.
Those administrators, they can, those customer service representatives, they can get so hung up on money, and it's unfortunate. We really try to train it out of them, but
here we are.
I'm sorry for your inconvenience.
How can we help? And so they moth stand over to the most 60s sci-fi moment of the show so far. Early Star Trek with the mini skirts? Oh, okay.
No, this reminds me of, I'm pretty sure this was a like fake Facebook post as satire, as this like hyper right-wing person saying that the reason that they maintain like their guns is so that if they ever needed to take their child to like Italy for some critical treatment, they would be able to wield their gun and threaten the airplane to fly them over to another country for medical care. They would be able to do it.
Okay.
So that's what this reminds me of, them using the Lexx to blow up a planet to threaten the hospital facility into taking care of Stanley.
Well, they can't otherwise because they don't have money. And so they moth Stanley over.
I bet the Lexx has a room full of precious metals that it has extracted from its feeding material.
That's true. You know what? I'm just happy the brains are gone.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
The what did they call them?
It doesn't matter. It's an expediency of the moment.
Predecessors?
The
Divine
DPs.
predecessors.
The DPs, yeah.
Divine predecessors.
I'm just glad that they moved through this. They weren't like, oh, we got to go get money. And then we went on like a chain quest, like in an RPG where they had to like go find money.
Oh, yeah.
Because I mean, with Stanley being in the cryo chamber, we really had infinite amounts of time.
Urgency.
There was no urgency, right? Except that Kai needed to go back in the cryo chamber and we can't use any of the other ones. We can only use one at a time.
Stanley's the only one who is almost certified on how to
really
use
though,
the
like the
cryo
thing I want to discuss is one, this is like the 60s sci-fi moment with these like short miniskirts on these nurses. And also I think I have seen Gen Z teens wearing these sandals. Stupid ass sandals that they're wearing. They look like something made by Crocs. I'm just going to leave it right there. And if you haven't seen this show, just go watch
context, it. Gen Z is mostly in their 20s now. It's Gen Alpha that's like mid-teens now.
No. If millennials have to be the bad guys all the way into their 40s, I can make Gen Z the bad guy for a long time now. Okay, I gotta shh with you. Shh. The doctor.
Sorry for giving you some perspective.
I do not receive your perspective right now. I need you to just.
I'm not receiving that now.
I am not receiving that right now. So the doctor shows up. Like they're running down this. They're like they got Stan on a hover cart. He's all covered in plastic. They're running down this sterile looking hallway. This doctor runs up and assures them that the quality of surgery on the MedSat is better than the quality of the administration, because sometimes they forget that human lives are at stake. And he's like, so what happened to this guy? And Kai's like, oh, I punctured him with this. And he like, caw-caw! Like he pulls out I killed him with this weapon. Like he pulls his gun out. Anyway.
Yeah.
It's a moment and it happens.
He's flashing his lethal weapon in the facility as, here's.
I mean, honestly, the most important
Here's how
part.
I killed the guy.
The most important part of this entire interaction, honestly, is that this doctor is Space Andrew Tate. And if you don't know who Andrew Tate is, look him up. And then look up the guy who plays this doctor. They are twinning so hard, not only physically, but I would like to say spiritually.
Yes.
Yeah, I feel like Andrew Tate watched this episode and then was like, that's who I want to be as a person, and modeled himself after it.
He had so much potential and he didn't execute it well enough, but I can execute that potential better.
Yeah, because I'm a better person.
That's my dream.
I am actually a superior person to everyone around me. I don't know. Anyway, so the doctor's like, this is no mere cardiac rupture. His heart has been pulverized. I won't give you any promises, but would we be doctors if we didn't try? And then they whisk Stan away into an operating room, and then we surgery, bop deep bop boop, surgery. Like, I don't know. This is a really long scene. They're like removing his heart. They put his heart in this thing. It regrows his heart. They put it back in, all while Kai and Zev are looking on. And Zev ends up going to sleep because she's like, fuck Stanley.
And
I don't give a shit.
790 is mourning.
Mourning the fact that Stanley's coming back to life, you mean?
Yes.
And you can tell that Kai is really distressed by all this because part of his beehive has come loose.
The strand.
Here's the strand. Exactly. But eventually.
It's a sign of distress. This strand is a sign of distress.
I'm sorry. I just had to. I was processing. That wasn't a. Yeah. It was a good joke. So they're like, yeah, Dr. Kazan, that's Space Andrew Tate, seems to know what he's doing. And then 790 goes, if he knew what he was doing, he'd just let him die.
790 commits to the bit.
Yeah. And then Zev says, maybe I should get you rewired while I'm here. And so 790 goes, I just say these things because I'm crazy about you. Which is what every bad boyfriend says.
Yeah.
But Kai is really kind of distraught. I mean, Stanley is Stanley, but Stanley is his friend. And actually, I would like to point out, Stanley has actually saved Kai's life way more than Kai has saved Stanley's life. Because Kai has been floating in space and Stanley has saved him twice.
Right.
Stanley rammed Mantrid with a moth and saved them. Stanley returned and saved Zev and 790 from death inside a moth after the Giga Shadow blew up. Stanley has actually saved more of them than anyone. It's fine. It's fine. And then we get more organ props, which this really just feels like a callback. Like there was that one guy in the prop room who was like, they hired him just to make brains. And he hasn't made brains in a really long time. And he was like, guys, I specialize in organs and I just feel like I'm not being used to my full potential. And they were like, cool, can you make a heart or some shit? And he was like, yes. And so he made a really slick looking heart. Literally.
Oh, yeah. It looks good.
A slick looking heart. And they use that when they regrow his heart, which is kind of neat. That whole scene where they like recreate his organ is pretty cool. But while they're working, the doctors are in no way focusing on Stanley. They're talking about Kai. They're like, oh, he must be some kind of warrior. Those clothes, that hair, that weapon.
That vibe.
That vibe. And yet he's strangely benign. Curious. Very curious. And you know what? I feel like they got to reuse the brain cover face masks because the face masks that the doctors are using as their like clear shields kind of look like the face mask that they put on top of the brain containers.
Mm.
In fact, blood squirts on
one
one of them.
Curved piece of plastic.
Yeah, with like facial features on it.
Yeah.
And then they seal his chest shut with lasers.
Lasers!
And then they're like, splendidly done, doctors. Yes, we did a very good job there, didn't we?
Yeah, that felt kind of Star Trek, actually.
Yeah. They're like, you're done. You're fixed. Yeah, it was good. And then they give Kev. Oh, we don't get to say Kev for very much longer. They give Kev a thumbs up. And she kisses Kai on the cheek, which he's like mildly upset about because he killed the guy. The guy got fixed. And then she's like, yeah, he got fixed. But he's like, yeah, but like we're here because of me in the first place.
Bad.
Like, you know, the one thing I can say about these 60s miniskirts that all these nurses are in, even the male nurses are in the miniskirts. So
gender equality.
It's fine. You know what? In my notes, I say the doctor is giving creep energy. And yeah, like he's good at it. He's hateable.
Oh, yeah.
He's
he does
so
a great
punchable.
job.
He is so punchable.
I wonder if he's been in anything else.
And the doctor shakes Kai
he does
and
look
Zev's
a
hands.
little
They're like,
familiar.
we did it because he looks exactly like fucking Andrew Tate. That's why he looks familiar. But they're like, we did a great job. Everybody did a great job. It's going to be fine. So they tell him like he's going to be asleep for a couple of days probably because he's got to recover from like everything he's gone through. So like you can come and stay somewhere. But Kai is like, no thanks. I'm actually just going to sit here by his bedside because that's how I'm going to assuage my guilt is I'm going to make sure he gets better.
Mm-hmm.
So they offer Kai and Zev some food, but Kai is like, I don't eat. Which again, like, I mean, great, yeah, you don't eat, but also, man, play it cool. Don't give the game away, right? I am an undead assassin who is only alive because of the proto-blood provided by the Giga Shadow, and I do not eat and I do not sleep, and I am more powerful than you can possibly imagine. Like, you don't got to tell him. You just be like, I'm not hungry, right? Like, mask a little, right? Change your clothes, change your hair. Try not to be so obvious. So anyway, Kai is like, I don't eat food. And so the doctor's like, cool, whatever. Zev, you want to go to dinner? And she's like, yeah. So she leaves 790 behind with Kai. And 790 goes, so heartless, so cruel, so delicious. And as they're walking away, as the doctor and Zev are walking away, this woman is like bebopping down the hallway in her little motorized accessibility aid. And she's like, Dr. Kazan, I've made a complete recovery. My tumor is gone.
This character felt so
contrived. This character's sole purpose for existing is to show you how much of a douchebag Dr. Kazan is.
Right, because the first time they interact, he's like, oh, I'm so glad you're doing well.
Yeah.
We took care of you here and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. She goes, my tumor is gone. My pains are gone. And all because of you. He's so hot. She says.
Don't you think he's so handsome?
And Zev is like, yeah, he's hot. He's not. I mean, he's not bad, but he's like, I mean, he looks like he has a podcast about politics.
He's been in almost exclusively German things.
His name is like Simon Licht.
Yeah.
Yeah. He looks like he has a podcast about politics, but he only talks about like supplements and weightlifting. That's what he looks like.
Isn't that what all like men's podcasts are about?
I mean, you said it, not me. So then they're eating in this weird bubble floating thing that was kind of in the background on the call earlier, like the background of the. Anyway. And he pays with this card slider. Oh my God, the swamp shit is getting to me. I need to focus.
Swamp juice.
Focus, tongue.
Swamp juice.
So he pays in this card slider that is on the waitress's coach. I don't know if you noticed that, but he's like, she boop right down the naturally existing card slot. Did you notice that? And then he turns to Zev and he's like, may your every wish be realized. And she goes, well, I wish to be kissed. And then she goes full sex slave. She's like, like sucking his face. The
She's
doctor's
doing her
like,
best. She's had very little practice.
I know. And the doctor's like, well, cool. This is all great and stuff. But let's discuss the key to the Lexx in depth.
This is not suspicious at all.
Yeah. And he's like, yeah, it's very mysterious, alluring, powerful, much like you. Go on. And she's like, I mean, I don't know, like I pilot the Lexx or whatever, and I have some friends, and like we've been hanging out, and we've done some really weird shit, but like it's been fun, and we defeated these worms, and then we went back to the homeland of the Bruna G. I don't know, it was like long.
If anybody tells their own personal story, it's going to sound kind of grand and semi-ridiculous. So I can't tell you everything.
Right. So Space Andrew Tate is like, you wear your destiny on your skin. You're one of the chosen. And she's like, oh, okay. I don't know what that means.
Zev is realizing, oh no, this is like a cult recruitment.
Well, she's like, I think at this moment she's like, okay, this isn't going exactly how I was hoping, but I think I can still get sex out of this. So let's just play along for a second.
Can I still salvage sex out of this?
Yeah. And he goes, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And she's like, oh, you know, on a nice planet I can call home with someone special, maybe. Like, wow, she dropped Kai like a hot potato for Hot Doctor.
Shit. He's on to a 5-year plan now.
Right. She dropped Kai first. He was like, I'm a doctor, and she was like, say no more, fam. She was like,
oh, you have a skill set, you have an income,
you have a working penis. I am so here
the
for
trifecta.
you. The trifecta. Job, income, functioning genitalia. I am so here for you.
That's why I'm here.
You are not wrong. Right now, Zev is thinking with her vag. She needs to be thinking with her big brain, and she's thinking with her little brain because he's giving off all kinds of red flags, and she's just like, okay, When do we go to your bedroom?
This is where her horniness is like bumping up against her capacity of horniness.
Yeah.
It's overriding her higher brain functions.
It is, because she's like, well, I want to live on a little place with somebody special.
Wait,
she winks at him.
She's thinking with her lizard brain.
She is. Literally, because she has one. Oh my God. Because she's part cluster lizard. And the doctor is like, cool. Well, you know, we're both better than everyone else. And I'm glad you noticed. Your dream can't be a hut on some sweaty outback planet. And she was like, I never said I was going to live in a hut. And he's like, yeah, okay, but we will be the whole crew of the Lexx, and we will be free to own the universe. Don't get bogged down with sentiment. We're both one of the chosen. Seize your fate. And she's like, can't we just have sex? We've all been there. You're on a date. You're just hoping this date ends well. And they start talking about how they're a superior being.
Right.
And
you need to do the sex part before you do the we are superior beings talk.
Yeah. Well, maybe he thinks that's beneath him.
Mm.
I don't know. He's like, don't make a mistake and stay with them. And she's like, how are they a mistake? They're my friends. And he's like, okay, well, Stan is weak, which...
We've bonded through trauma.
Yeah. He's like
family.
Well, the doctor says Stan is weak, which is a big ask because Stan has not yet been awake in this entire episode. He doesn't know who Stanley is.
He's making very broad assumptions here.
Stanley Tweedle just murdered 2 men in cold blood, lured them in, had them eaten by the Lexx, and then shit them onto a planet where they were going to get eaten by giants.
For closure.
For closure. Stanley is not weak, sir.
He may have been at one time.
Right. You know what? No.
In a compromised situation.
I would never say Stanley was weak. Stanley prioritizes survival.
Right. He
Yeah.
was in a compromised situation from the perspective
He
of
was in a depressive
standing up
episode,
to bullies. Yeah.
okay? For like a long time. He went through some shit. He didn't get any kind of like aftercare, trauma,
Right.
PTSD.
He never
stuff.
had any free space to process it until he was on the Lexx. He had that little bit of empowerment, like, okay, here, now you have some autonomy, but you also have some social responsibility.
Once he had food, shelter, safety back, he was able to process his shit.
And boom, 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 boom.
He's processed
First chance
his
he got,
shit, sir.
he turned his bullies into literal feed.
Yeah. And I don't love how he continues his pursuit of Zev after she's made it clear she's not interested. But that is part of the joke. That's part of the joke.
He is
and so you just have to
emotionally
run with it.
immature.
Yeah.
And he has zero experience with romantic relationships. It seems like this is how he thinks romantic relationships are supposed to go.
Right.
And he's not getting any constructive pushback.
Right. Well, the doctor goes, Stan is weak, Kai is a freak, and the robot is a cartoon. And Zev is like, who the fuck do you think you are? Which, good, Zev. You stood up for them. You were willing to drop Kai when sex was involved. But when sex was off the table, you were back on your friend's side. And that's what matters in the end. So Zev finally does stand up for them. She's like, who the fuck do you think you are? And the doctor's like, oof. Well, this isn't going exactly how I thought. So forgive me, darling. It's just that I so hoped that this next step would be unnecessary. And then he jabs her with a fucking needle, which is I don't know if you knew this or not, but this is a red flag.
Red flag.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah. When you say no and somebody sedates you, it's probably time to realize that this relationship was doomed from the beginning. And then Kazan calls someone on his beep boop phone. It's like the most sci-fi phone.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I got the bitch. I don't know. Do what you need to do. And so then we cut back to Kai and the robot head sitting on chairs. And 790's like,
oh yeah, in Stanley's hospital room.
yeah, he's like, take me to Zev. And Kai's like, I'm not taking you to Zev. She's having a moment. She might actually get laid, 790. Will you please calm down?
Do you know how much of a burden this would be off of my shoulders if Zev could actually get laid? Oh my God.
Well, I think he'd like to be the one who could be there for her, but he also can't be the one who can be there for her.
Right.
So, like, he's willing to let this happen. And so 790 says he hears something, which we know 790 has great hearing from the
other episodes.
The other episodes. The one with Rutger Hauer, where they're on the planet with Pattern, and he's like, I have really good hearing. And then gas starts coming into the room, and Kai's like, what? So he walks up to the place where the gas is coming out. I mean, to be fair, he probably has never experienced a gas that bothered him before, since he probably doesn't need to breathe.
Right. Most of the time, the gas is poison.
Right. So he walks over and he's like, maybe. I don't know, just maybe.
I shoot it with
caw-caw. If I shoot it with caw-caw, it'll be fine. So he goes to, but it's too late. He is frozen solid. And somehow cold air makes 790 glitch. Because 790 starts freaking out and he's like,
790's
yeah.
Like chassis.
Okay.
It's a
human brain.
If you open up the case,
yeah,
I bet there's a little chip on there that says plot device.
Okay, yeah, and sometimes you just flick that switch.
And that sometimes that device is temperature sensitive, and sometimes that device is Yes, canonically there's a human brain.
There is a human brain inside of 790 because the organ bank was used to create those robots. So those robots are actually made from real human parts. So there is actual meat inside of 790's head, which could freeze. And it might be that part of his processor is robot and part of his processor is brain. And so the part of his brain that
like
was brain
Murderbot
froze. Also canonically, 790's brain is female. You
Really?
poke around on fan spaces long enough, usually that pops up. I thought that was interesting. So he starts going, Zev, Zev, and that's pretty much all he keeps repeating. And then he gets thrown in the trash because these two people come in and they're like, ding, ding. They like knock on Kai, and Kai's frozen solid with his arm up. And then they take 790 and like chunk him in the trash. And then he glitches and goes dark. And then we come back to Zev, who is waking up. And she's singing softly in a horrific reprise of our romantic song from the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And faces are hovering over her, and it's the faces of the three doctors.
Should have been foreshadowing, because when we first see Kai, he's singing this song as he's going into a suicide mission.
That's true. And these three doctors are hovering over her, and they're like, oh, hello there.
I don't know how much we need to discuss the evil trifecta of doctors.
Well, the best part is they have like a mantra and matching tattoos.
Yeah.
They're like everything we want whenever we want it. Name it, dream it,
Like
take it.
The hyperbole of evil scheming doctors.
Oh, they are. You want to talk about a fucking cartoon. These three characters are a fucking cartoon because they're like raw and unlimited power. It's ours. It's just to be like, wow, look how gross they are, which they're gross. It's fine. We get it. And they're like, the first thing we learned in medical school is that we're assholes, basically. And we got matching tattoos, which I don't even understand why they mentioned because we don't even see the tattoos.
Right.
We get like a fleeting glimpse of what they might look like. I don't know. Maybe they're going to come back. And they're like, basically, we're going to break you and kill you and then get the key. So like no hard feelings. And Zev is like, yeah, I used to be ugly. And the lady doctor goes, nobody wants that. Or whatever. Okay. And then creep Dr. Andrew Tate takes one last moment to tell her that her crew is ridiculous and that they are her real friends and that those others are just handicapping her and keeping her from being the true alpha in her soul. Not that she could be a real alpha though, because she's a woman, but like she could be like a cool woman and she's not being cool right now. And she's like, okay, but like also maybe fuck you. Fuck your horse. Fuck all of you. Just fuck you.
Fuck you. Fuck your stethoscope.
Fuck your matching tattoos. Fuck all this business. And they just leave it. She goes, my friends. And then he kisses her and then leaves. And then they draw a huge vial of her blood. She goes, ow. And she looks down and it's like a tankard. It's like the largest.
It's like a pint.
It's like the
blood.
largest thing I've ever seen. And then this weird torture device. It comes in pints. Then this weird torture device starts making its way down towards her. And that's when the old lady in the wheelchair from the hallway comes in. Like, this is an operating room.
Yeah. How did she get... So for him,
room.
No, he didn't do the like sanitized like entrance into the room. That was when he was going to heal Stanley.
Yeah.
But ostensibly, this is another operating room. This is sanitary. There's like procedure to get in. How did she just wheel in on her wheelchair? I was half expecting her to be like, play the innocent old lady card for a minute and then be like, but I know what you're really up to right now. I'm going to try to interfere, and then they would have to kill her. And then he just kills her on a whim.
Right. Well, I mean, she rolls in, and she's like, Dr. Kazan, Doctor, they're releasing me tomorrow, and I didn't want to leave without saying thank you again. I owe you my life. And Dr. Kazan is like, what you owe me, you insipid old cow, is money. So why don't you trade that gratitude for some cash? And here's the best part. There was never anything wrong with you. This feels like such a commentary. Dr. Kazan is a commentary.
So?
I mean, I'm getting vibes of commentary here because he goes, we just messed you up so you'd have to come back.
Right. We cut you open and then we poked around a bit.
And we messed a couple things up so we knew you'd have to come back. Then we emptied your purse, and then we made you better once we had all of your money. She goes, I didn't have a tumor. He goes, you are a tumor. And then he picks up an N64 controller, Nintendo 64 controller.
It's an N64 controller with some extra lights on it.
Controller, and he's like, boop, 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 and he like shoots her out into space.
And apparently it operates an airlock.
Yeah, and then her scarf floats by in the void. Yes. And now Zev is pissed. And then Andrew Tate goes, the hand that heals becomes the hand that steals. Okay.
He just becomes more of a cartoon character
as time goes on. Yeah.
As this episode
and
proceeds.
So then they like stab her with an artery probe and whoop, 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 we're off. We go do other stuff. She starts screaming. Meanwhile, they're experimenting on Kai's flesh. They have a chunk of Kai's flesh and they explode it and it immediately starts reassembling itself. And they're like, what if we drowned it in acid? So they start pouring acid in there. And then Kai is in the background and he's stuck in what looks like the baby MRI container where they like strap them and stick them in this thing. And they pull up his face. They must be like interfacing directly with his brain because he's still frozen. And they're like, I have to say, you are hard to kill. And he's like, yeah, well, that has not always been the case. I love how dry he is. And they're like, okay, so how do we kill you? And he's like, I'm already dead.
He commits. Michael McManus commits to the bit.
He just goes, I'm already dead, as you soon will be. They're like, we bet you feel angry. And he goes, feelings don't enter into it. I'm just stating the facts. I'm going to kill you so hard,
this
you're going to die.
This is not a threat.
It's a promise.
It's
a promise. They're like, but we're going to give you eternal peace. And he goes, I mean, normally I'd be cool with that, but not right now. And the one doctor's like, well, why don't we just leave him? Like, we can just leave him frozen. It's going to be fine. It's fine. And the other doctor's like, yeah. But as soon as we thaw him out, he's going to kill us. And they're like, so if we thawed you out, you'd straight up murder us all, wouldn't you? And he's like, oh, yeah, totally. No, I'd kill you. As soon as I have the chance, I'm gonna kill you till you're dead. And they're like, okay, so we know he will reassemble unless we break him down into subatomic particles. And our satellite drive is powered by a plasma beam from an ion furnace. Obviously, I mean,
sure.
Didn't we all learn about that in elementary school? And I'm going to shoot that in your face. How does that make you feel? And Kai goes, fire away. And the lady doctor's like, could that not destroy the satellite? And the other doctor's like, yeah, but not if I'm smart, which I totally am. And they're like, oh my God, I forgot. You're the smartest guy in the room. Why does a surgeon
have access to the particle accelerator?
Because he's the smartest guy in the room. Come on. You were in AIG. Don't you know how this shit works? Were you in AIG? Were you in academically and intellectually gifted programs?
On that topic, in Michigan,
yep,
at the time when I was in grade school.
Okay, so back in the 50s.
They had the gifted program. They had the regular kids. And if you did not fit in with the regular kids. Okay, so if you didn't fit in with the regular kids.
The normies. Mm-hmm.
But you had very good time management skills and you were highly intelligent, you got put into the gifted program.
You were one of those things.
If you did not fit in with the neurotypicals,
yeah,
and you were intelligent and had poor time management skills, oh, sorry, there's only one other category. That's the special ed program. I got put in the special ed program. That's why we moved to Massachusetts.
That's the 90s, folks. Everyone's like, why are millennials broken? Like, do you know what we went through?
And so after we moved to Massachusetts, the education system is much more sophisticated and nuanced. And so rather than just having gifted
3 levels,
rather than just having 3 levels,
yeah,
they had maybe like 5 or 6.
Yeah, they had shades of gray.
And so I got put. Okay, here's my favorite one.
Okay.
I'm like the whitest, like most straight-laced white guy.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Right?
We knew that.
I was in, what was this, like 5th grade English class? And I was not. Okay, on tests, I rock it.
Yeah.
Right? And I've seen a lot of material about, oh yeah, like kids developmentally, there was one I was just watching like yesterday, and it was like, oh yeah, there's this pattern for like, if you have ADHD and you're above average intelligence, you can just coast through grade school and you like absorb enough information from class time that you can just pass all the tests. But then when you get to grades where you have to start doing homework, they just don't do the homework.
Right. Which is what
And
you did.
To the T of my school experience. And then you start failing classes. And so I was in this English class. I was reading all the books. I was answering questions during class. I was absorbing all the material
Whether they
during
were
class.
asked or not. Mm-hmm.
But if I had to do something at home and then bring it in and turn it in, that didn't happen. My entire freshman year of high school, I had detention every single Monday.
Yeah.
Because of my math class,
Mm-hmm.
because we had homework every day. And if you did not do your homework for some number of days in a row, you would have to do detention on Monday afternoon after school got out. And so every Monday afternoon, I would go to my math class detention.
Yeah.
And I would do the previous 5 days of math homework in about 20 minutes. And then as soon as the backlog of homework assignments were completed and turned in, I could leave. And so it was just like, I don't know. When I was in the classroom, boom, I was on it.
Yeah.
Knock it out.
'Cause
get
you were in
everything done. Right. Because I'm
Remember
in the
when
context
Dad
of the
used to
classroom
go,
environment.
I'm out of context.
Yeah.
I'm out of context. You were in context.
Right.
Yeah.
You put me in the classroom. I can, with my teacher, who usually teaches me, and then they put a sheet of. I was always great at filling out worksheets.
Yeah.
You put a stack of worksheets in front of me in a classroom with my regular teacher. Boom, everything, all the dominoes in a row. Boom, boom, boom. It works.
I was an AIG.
You hand me a stack of worksheets and say, fill these out.
Take these home and do them.
In your leisure time at home, fill out these worksheets and then remember to then put them back in your backpack, and then remember to bring your backpack to school, and then remember to bring your backpack with your worksheets in it to class, and then remember to bring them out and put them on the teacher's desk, and then you'll get the grades for them. Sorry,
What was
you
your grade
lost me.
point average when we started dating?
Well, hold on. Let me finish. Let me finish my special class that I was in.
Okay.
So this was 5th grade English class. I was not doing the homework. I was doing fine on all the written assignments. I was stuff in class. And then one day they're like, hey, you're getting transferred to this other class.
Oh, no.
Oh, okay. And it was me and it was 5 of the most, I don't know how to say this diplomatically.
Underprivileged.
Not necessarily
No?
underprivileged.
Underperforming. Delinquent.
Okay, not even maybe delinquent. It was 5 black kids
Mm-hmm.
who looked like the most I'm in a gang black kids in middle school.
Yeah. So
And then
very
me.
90s moment. You had a 90s moment in your
Yeah.
in your past. Yeah.
That
okay.
class was great. I loved being in that classroom. We got along really, really well.
Yeah.
Because I could talk to anybody once we got talking.
I love this for you.
And I had several other experiences similar to that throughout my school experience in Massachusetts,
Yeah.
where, okay, we have intelligent children who, because of,
You didn't have a mom at home.
right, because she was working 3 jobs
Yes.
to make ends meet.
Right.
It's like, here's these kids with, like,
They
probably
don't
the
have
common
at-home support.
probably the common factor was at-home support,
Yeah.
like absentee parents, basically because of
Yeah. Or
like financial situations,
Right.
and so high school, like middle school and high school in Massachusetts, worked out a lot better for me than it was working in Michigan,
Yeah.
because in Michigan I just got put in with the catch-all
Underperforming students.
special ed
Yeah.
class, and then I was even more bored.
So what was your grade point average when we started
All right.
dating, Matthew?
My first semester at college.
It doesn't require an
When I met
explanation. Just
Rachel.
drop the number.
0.9.
What class were you passing?
Swimming. The one class that I had with no homework.
You are so lucky. I was like, I think I can rehab that.
It was my conversational skills.
I was an AIG. I was an AG.
Oh, of course you were.
I was. And then I had a teacher that felt like I
Well,
wasn't.
you were above average intelligence with time management skills.
Well, I had a teacher that felt that I was not trying because I was being given everything without having to work for it. And so she took away all of my accelerated things that I was doing. So any like work that I was doing where I was getting extra work, or any extra classes where I was going to get like above and beyond instruction, she took all of that away because I wasn't working for it. And so mom took me out of public school and I ended up homeschooled until high school.
Yeah.
Because there are certain teachers who, when you feel in your heart that it is time for you to retire because you hate children on a visceral level, leave. Leave while you're ahead.
I had a teacher who the year after I was in her class, she got her teaching license revoked.
Nice.
She was the one that grew extra long fingernails.
Oh, so she could poke children.
And she would press her fingernails into your head
Yeah.
while she was talking to you
Again,
as a painful form of punishment. And
if you ever find
and if you-
yourself...
and when me and the other kids told people about it, you can't
Isn't she
see
the one
it
who threw
because
your
it's in the
desk in the
hair.
hallway and called
No,
your mom
this
and
was a
cussed her out?
This was
No.
a different teacher. Oh, there's
No.
there's a whole bunch.
This isn't the Rachel and Matt education hour. We'll put let's put a pin
the
in this.
next year.
No pin for you.
I think my sister was in her class.
Yeah.
She pushed on somebody's neck, but she burst a vein in their neck and they had to go to the hospital. And then they were like, hey, we've had reports from kids for years
Of you abusing
saying
them.
that you are abusing them by pressing your long, hard ass fingernails into their skin
Yeah.
to hurt them. And now a kid's in the hospital because you were pressing your fingernail into their neck to hurt them.
Yeah. So the next
Bye.
time you're on the internet and you feel the need to call a millennial cringe, just remember, you have no fucking idea what we went through. None. Okay, so back to Zev. The evil doctor is monologuing again to Zev. After a while in this episode, he got a little bit Charlie Brown's mom. I'm better than everybody, and I'm the best guy
repetitive,
ever, and
yeah.
I'm the best, and I'm so smart, and I'm a doctor.
He was
blah, blah, blah.
unmasking and you got to see how shallow he was as a person.
Because he's like, the whole selfless doctor thing was just a panty dropper. And hey, it worked. Ha ha ha. It worked on her. She just wanted to have sex with you, dude. Don't vilify this.
She propositioned you, dude.
Yeah.
This wasn't.
Well, he goes, of course, being a love slave, your panties aren't exactly glued on, are they? Oh, great. Slut shaming. Yeah, let's just add that into that pile of shit show you've got going on there. And he goes, I mean, I'm a dick, but I do good work on undeserving losers. And she goes, poor you. Poor you, Space Andrew Tate. And he's like, yeah, honest, young, gifted, and gorgeous. I want that on a t-shirt. You know, the t-shirts that have like the words in a stack.
Yeah.
I want honest, young, gifted, and gorgeous on a shirt.
Add it to the red bubble.
And then he's in preparing to inject her with this thing. Oh my God. I have finished my entire cup of swamp juice and now my tongue is not forming pee properly. He's preparing to inject her with something and they're like, ho, 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 hold off on the juice because something in her DNA is weird. And he's like, can't hear you. So he's like, blah, blah, blah. Who cares? We're going to inject her anyway. And Zev goes, well, I'm keeping the key, which at this point they have her one hand propped up. Because the whole point of this is that he wants the Lexx. And he wants the key
to the Lexx.
And
the Lexx has to be passed on by an act of will. The will can be broken at the point of death, and so they are medically bringing her to the point of death in order to compromise her will to get her to relinquish the key.
Yeah, he's like, I'm a doctor, so I know I can bring you to the point of death, and that will destroy your will, and then you'll give me the key, and then I'll have the key to the Lexx, and then I can go off, and I can fuck around the universe as the alpha male that I am. And Zev is like, also, I'm never giving you the key. And they're at a standstill. So we go back to 790, just as he's like, this will sting a little. And then he starts electrocuting her. And 790 actually reboots. And he's been left in the room with Stanley Tweedle because he got chunked into the trash can.
And
so he's like, Tweedle, wake up.
From the episodes in the city, in the cluster, that he can like radio communicate and control other electronic systems around him.
He can do whatever is necessary to save the day in any given situation.
Right, but this one has corroborating precedent.
That's literally his code. Whatever you need to be able to do, you can now do it. So he's trying to wake up Stanley, and he does actually end up waking up Stanley. And then we cut back away to Zev, and Zev's vital signs are dropping. They end up dropping down to 3%. They're dropping by like 2 or 3 percentage points till we get to 3%. And then they're like 2.75, 2.50. Like they just start slowing down. And when are we going to cluster lizard drop kick his ass? It was actually the thing that I wrote down in my notes. And what I thought every time I watched this episode was like, it takes a really long time for her to start fighting back. And I get it, but also it starts to feel like, come on, you made this kick-ass character who's capable of defending herself. And then she's like, ow, ooh, ah, for a really long time.
Yeah.
And so they're trying to get this key, and it begs the question, how good was the Shadow's security if literally everyone knows how the Lexx works? Everyone knows about the Lexx key. So, unless they were part of the group that figured out how to create the Lexx key that they gave to Thodin. Because remember, Thodin...
No, but that entire planet was destroyed.
I don't know. It doesn't matter.
That's why Thodin was there.
This is an upper level question of like, wait, how come everybody knows how the Lexx works?
I feel like maybe there were deleted scenes where they communicated how the key worked to the doctors. Like they just let it slip or something.
I mean, maybe. But the key starts to transfer.
It is impressive that it cannot be stolen.
I mean, it's a good key. Right. But also it leads us to these situations where she's almost dead. She has like 1% vital signs. And so the key starts to transfer into his hand, and he's like, oh, yeah, baby. Oh, yeah, come on, oh, baby. And then the other tech is like, oh, no. And he's like, shut up, Bert. The guy's name is Bert. And then the key gets slurped back into her hand as Bert is like, she has reptilian DNA. And Dr. Kazan is like, what? Reptilian DNA? Just as Zev actually transforms into a cluster
I figured
lizard?
she was just going to, like, She-Hulk, like, bust her way out and start throwing hands. But, no, she just straight up
Turns
transforms
into a cluster lizard.
a full cluster lizard.
Like, we even watch her chest. It's totally unnecessary. We watch her boobs turn into cluster lizard boobs. Like,
I mean, it's
thank
on
you.
brand for the show.
Like, thank you for that. I really appreciate that. But her face, like, it's not great, but it's what happens. It's what happens.
Yeah.
Everything except her plastic pieces. Her dress, gone. But the plastic shit that she's
The plastic
had
shoulder
since
thing?
she escaped. Yeah.
The only
sticks
thing that
around.
she was wearing in the shower scene, that's why I think it's part of her body.
It might be now. Bert gets immediately eaten, which seems unfair since he wasn't actually, I mean, he was complicit, but I don't know.
Yeah.
And then she rolls off.
As the cluster lizard does.
Yeah.
Every time a cluster lizard is going somewhere, it says, "This is how I roll."
Yeah. Sips his drink. That's right. I made a good joke. So, I mean, they knew how the Lexx worked. They knew what they needed to do to get the Lexx key, but they didn't have cluster lizard DNA on file.
No, they only existed in the cluster.
It took them a while to identify it, and then they still only called it reptile DNA. And Dr. Kazan is like, hey, yes, I've been spared because I'm so beautiful. And then slime starts dripping on his shoulder. Thank you, Pippin. Would you like to lay down? Go. Would you call it slime or anticipation jelly? Starts dripping on his shoulder. And then she eats him. Zev eats him after he's like, I can do things for you. Like I'm really good at shit, and I'm too beautiful to die. And she's like, so not too beautiful to die, I guess. And then we cut back to 790, who is piloting Stan's bed around.
Yeah.
As
Hey,
Stanley
he can
is
control it
waking up.
remotely.
So Stanley wakes up and finally breaks out of the plastic, and he has lost his hat. He gets his hat back.
His hat has been removed from his head, but he has not been lost.
That's true. He cannot lose his hat, but he can temporarily remove it. And they end up running right into Zev, which they see a cluster lizard, and they're like, no, a cluster lizard. And then she doesn't eat them, and she's kind of like, and 790's like, oh, what's that, Zev? Timmy's down the well. She does not eat them, and then she rolls away. So they give chase, sort of, because they can't quite turn around. And then we cut back to Kai, who has sensors. Okay, so they're getting ready to demolecularize him with the exhaust from the ion furnace or some shit or whatever. And so they have put sensors all over him so that they can record this process in case they ever again encounter someone animated by protoblood and they need to demolecularize them in order to finally defeat them. And so they have wait. The point of this is they have put sensors on top of his hair.
I think it's been very well established that his hair is an additional organ.
Okay. Didn't we say his head is actually that shape and that his hair is just a ponytail on top?
Yeah.
That would make sense because...
Right, because when he had the burst of death and they sliced his body in half,
yes,
his hair was part of it.
yes.
Yeah.
So they actually have sensors stuck to his beehive, which just feels... They've committed, okay?
He's an augmented human.
Fully committed. And then they end up shooting him with exhaust from the ion
Maybe
furnace.
that's where the proto blood is stored.
in the reservoir on top of his head, then why did he think the proto-blood would be down? It doesn't matter. Okay, so then his eyes light up and like, woo, woo, they do the like,
I don't know what's happening here.
They do like a Raiders of the Lost Ark shit where like beams shoot out of his eye and float around, and they're all like,
spirit energy is floating around his head.
And they're like, wow, it's so beautiful.
He's astral projecting.
Colors start shooting out of him. It's fine. It's fine. This is definitely gonna work. And so they turn it off.
And then they turn it to full power.
They're like, okay, let's try full power because maybe we'll get more eye shine. I don't fucking know. And Zev, who at this point is, of course, full cluster lizard and therefore able to literally get into any space without any kind of plot explanation, which is a cluster lizard superpower.
It's a feature.
Yeah. She rolls into that area and like pushes Kai out of the beam just as they're getting ready to turn it on full. And Kai is like, oh no, oh shit. And so he picks up a piece of reflective metal and like pew pew, like reflects.
He reflects the ion beam at the other people
doctors,
in the room.
Yeah, and demolecularizes the bad doctors.
At least Dr. Kazan got eaten.
I mean, whatever. They're very perfunctorily dealt with. And then he walks over and turns off the beam. And then we turn around and Zev is still in the like drive thing. And she's humanoid again. But
yeah, after he turns it off. She changes back to human form, but her face is fine. Her hair looks amazing. But the rest of her entire body is like a molten mess.
Yeah, and I kind of wanted them to finish this out with her as a cluster lizard and then them have to have a serious conversation with her. Like, but Zev, we love you. I mean, hey, we let Squish die.
Yeah.
That's the lowest this show's ever gone until this moment. But they're like, Zev, you can't die. And she's like, thank you. Goodbye. Like, I had a great life with you guys. And I did all right for a girl who grew up in a box. And Stanley's like, but you can't die. We never had sex. And she goes, he doesn't actually say that. I added that. They actually do keep
He means it.
They do keep this moment pretty sincere where he's like, oh my God, I thought eventually we would have a legitimate emotional connection. And like, you can't die now. And she goes, I'll miss you too, Stan. And Kai just looks really, really sad. And she looks at him and goes, I love you, Kai. Then she gives the key back to Stanley. And this is the time when I really feel like I need to address the elephant in the room. And that is how good Stanley looks without his shirt on. And I'm not comfortable with how I feel about Stanley. But this entire scene, I was like, I'm not attracted to that. I am not attracted to that. And I don't know what it says about me. He's wearing tighty whities. And I mean like the tightest of tighty whities. He's even got like the most minuscule of like muffin top above the tighty whities because they are so tight. And I'm just like, you know, if you had asked me season 1, episode 1,
is Stanley Tweedle sexy?
I would have said no.
Mm-hmm.
Because he didn't look like he does in this episode. But in this moment, I was like, I am distracted and I'm not okay with that. And then we cut to poor 790, who's like, no, literally, she is the entire reason for 790's existence. 790 was not sentient until she put him in that machine.
Right.
So the only reason that he is a reasoning, thinking, speaking robot is because she gave him programming that was meant for her. And so partly his devotion is because he's a sex slave and 790 is the first one he imprinted on, but also she woke him up.
Right.
She was instrumental in him having an independent life. And now she's going to die. because she smiles around at everybody and then she dissolves into goo, which I love Matt's reaction, which was like, the fuck? Did she just dissolve? Yeah, no, she gone. Like, that's it. Ava Haberman is dead. Zev is dead. That's the end of that character. As far as we know. As far as we know. If we were watching this in real time, that character just died.
Yeah.
That was it.
Except for Kai scooping up as much goo as he can.
Yes, for some reason there's a clear salad bowl on a table next to it. So for plot reasons.
I've had this salad bowl before.
So Kai picks up this clear salad bowl and like scoops up a chunk of her goo and then picks up her plastic shoulder piece and drops it in the bowl. It's a lot of goo.
Because it's part of her body.
And Stanley's like, what are you doing? And Kai goes, I'm bringing Zev home. It's really sad when you think about it, but it's really, this is where this show really excels because this is a fucking ridiculous moment. This character who is wearing
everybody is playing it straight.
This character wearing a ridiculous beehive just scooped a bowl of goo and a plastic sex tank top out of a nuclear reactor or some shit and is like, I'm taking her home. And how am I supposed to feel right now? Okay. I'm a little bit
not crying,
sad.
You're crying.
I'm a little bit sad. I'm a little bit amused. I'm all confused. Okay. And that's not just the Stanley is still shirtless talking. There's a lot of confusion happening here right now. And it's great because it keeps you just that. I feel like maybe it's a 2024 thing. But at this point in my TV watching career, even if I don't feel the way you want me to feel, I know how you want me to feel.
Yeah.
We have a pretty clear language. We have a pretty developed visual language of, okay, this is a sad moment. This is a happy moment. This is a tense moment. And with very few exceptions, we pretty much stick to the script.
Mm-hmm.
So I can watch any show and be like, I'm supposed to be sad in this moment. Am I always sad? Not necessarily. But I know when you want me to be sad. This show has no script. This show has no internal language. This show is just presenting you this thing.
It's raw.
And then you can come at it from whatever direction you want to. And I think that's a little bit magic because it's this very unrefined, you want to be really amused in this moment. It could be really funny. You want to take this as the most tragic thing you've ever seen since the Forever Night season finale. Great. Go for it. You got that too.
Right. And it's all dependent on how immersed you are in the show.
Yeah. How invested you are in the characters and then how serious you have taken it. How serious are you about this show? And that kind of depends on what type of sci-fi fan you are.
Right, because the viewpoint of the listener for this content is very flexible. It works from multiple perspectives.
It does. It's really, and I think that the fact that this show could speak so many languages simultaneously is great.
Mm-hmm.
So they end up taking this bowl of Zev goo back to the Lexx and put it in this urn. And 790 is reciting his poetry. And he's like, forever by the Zev Zev, forever by the Zev I lay. And Stanley's like, that's it. That's fucking it. I'm going to go blow up the med set. I'm going to go do it. I'm going to go kill all the I'm just going to kill them. I'm going to kill them all. And Kai's like, that's just revenge. And Stanley's like, you're goddamn fucking right. It is. Of course it's revenge. I deserve revenge. They killed our crew. Like they killed Zev. And Kai's like, okay, but is that an acceptable motivation? And Stanley's like, I don't fucking care. And Kai's like, yeah, okay, but like everyone who did this to her is already dead. And Stanley's like, yeah, I mean, yeah, that makes it less fun, but I'm still mad and I'm going to blow the shit up out of them. And Kai says, Zev wouldn't want that. And Stanley says, God damn it. Just like her, denying me everything.
Even after she died.
He can't even have that. And then the Lexx flies away. But I just left this in because I typed in Mantrid and Google Sheets that I type in corrected it to Monostat. So Monostat shows up with an army of arms.
An arm-y?
An arm-y and destroys the MedSat as the Lexx flies away. So they don't see it happen. But as they're flying away, Mantrid's...
And they form the like iris spiral shape.
Yeah, they do the Lexx Giga Shadow curled up pill bug spiral thing.
Yeah. And
that's the end of the episode. Zev is dead. And that's it. We're all done. I mean, there's like 17 more episodes in this season or whatever, but like Ava Haberman's gone. She never comes back.
Yep. Unfortunately.
Wild. Can you imagine? You watched an entire season. You're like, hell yeah. This mini series that I thought was really fucking cool got brought back for another season. I'm going to get to watch an actual season of the show. Hell yeah. You watch one episode, which was Mantrid. And then you watch season 2, episode 2, and one of the main characters dies. That's fucking wild.
Almost as wild as watching 3 seasons of a like spy helicopter TV show. And then season 4, they swap out like the entire cast.
See, I thought you were going to go Forever Night and you went Airwolf. And I love that about you. It's just, I'm trying to think of something else that does that. Maybe Star Trek, because I think the pilot of Star Trek, the captain of the Star...
Babylon 5.
I don't think it... Oh, he does. He doesn't die. He doesn't die, per se.
But it's an actor that has to leave the show,
Yeah.
and they have an exit story arc.
They
for that
do, and they
character.
come back briefly, and then they disappear again. And it's really well done, but unexpected. But I was thinking Star Trek, the original series, the pilot, the captain is Christopher Pike. And then
Yeah.
when we come back for the series, he has to leave.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just, this wasn't a bad episode. It was very much we needed to move through some plotline things, and we needed to clear the air about a couple of things. And now we're ready to really hit the ground running.
Yeah. And now I'm imagining this from the production perspective. Like, all right, we got renewed for a season. We're on season 2. We're just going to totally rock this. All right, we got this whole Mantrid thing. Great. All right, let's do the next episode. And Ava's like, I'm sorry, guys. I can't continue the show. I need to back out. And they're like, fuck, shit, fuck, goddamn, fuck, Jesus.
Right. Well, you're not taking the leather thingy.
You cannot take that home.
Rubs it in goo.
And so they dust off this episode like, okay. All right, we'll get the backup actress. And we have to figure out a way to swap this in. And then it's like, okay, now we need to wait a couple more episodes before we can really get our momentum going again.
And this was bold because she's the only female character. And now it's a sausage party.
Yep.
I know we're going to replace this character because I've seen this series before, but or at least some of it. But you wouldn't have known that. And you're going to be like, great. Now I've got Kai, who is asleep almost all of the time. So the only character at this point, really, that you can count on is Stanley and the Lexx. And
Stanley,
790.
Lexx, and 790.
Yeah.
Are the main plot characters.
Yeah. I'm interested to see where we go in the next episode. I haven't watched the next episode yet.
Yeah.
But I am glad to be back.
I missed it.
I did. It's funny. because before we left, we've been struggling because we moved and we're in a new setup and we're closer to my mom, and it's just a challenge. And so I had been like, oh, I don't know, maybe we want to cut down on the number of podcasts we do, or I don't know. And then I was like, oh, I really miss I really miss sitting and talking and shooting the shit, and I don't know. I'm glad to be back. So ignore everything past Rachel thought. I changed my mind on all of it. I'm happy to be here.
Mm-hmm.
And Wondery, anytime you're ready with that offer, we're so ready. I'm on Threads. And somehow I've gotten over on podcast Threads. And there's so much like how to monetize your podcast. Are you ready to like get signed with a major network? Blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like,
yeah, right.
Yeah, right. The minute somebody's like, oh my God, we think you should be part of Stitcher. No, Stitcher got shut down. Never mind. Wondery. The minute Wondery's like, we think you could be a Wondery podcast, I'm going to just die. And then I'm going to tell them no, but then I'm going to die. Anyway, I've been trying to figure out what to do with the Patreon. I mean, we have a Patreon. We have some really wonderful members. And we have so much fun on the Discord. But I made promises when I first set up the Discord, and I have not been consistent fulfilling the promises. And so I kind of want to come up with like what do you as an audience want from me as a podcast host? And so I was thinking about some Patreon only episodes, or maybe we could do some more watch alongs, but I haven't really come up with like a consistent idea of what I want to do. So I'm open to suggestions. If you want to go on Instagram, you can connect with us there at Strange and Beautiful Network. You can also email us at thehosts@strangeandbeautiful.club, or now
strangeandbeautiful.network
at strangeandbeautiful.network.
New domain name.
New domain name. Either one works though. It's fine. So you can email us at host@strangeandbeautiful.network or Rachel@strangeandbeautiful.network. I will get both of those. And just let me know what you think would be fun to have on the Patreon. I was actually thinking I might sit down and watch the Stranger Than Fiction episode of Forever Night and write down all the plot lines from the Denied that get actually brought up, and then and then write the Denied.
Ooh.
I don't know. I think that could be kind of fun. So if you think that would be fun too, if you're like Forever Night, what the fuck? Go check it out. We have an entire podcast about it called Come in 81 Kilo. And if you haven't watched Forever Night and you like 90s television shows, honestly, this is the best thing you've never watched yet. So go watch it. We also have Strange and Beautiful Book Club, where we talk about books and movies, sometimes books that were made into movies, sometimes movies that were made into books. I don't know. Could go either way. Mostly we just have fun. If you like us here, you'll like us there. And then I have Feast, Sheath, and Shatter, where myself and two other women, Hannah and Kate, discuss spicy and interesting books, mostly in the fantasy and romance or romantasy genre. And we also have Garrick and Get It, where we talk about the illustrious filmography of Garrett Wynne Davies, the Canadian-American actor who we all know and love. Welsh, Canadian, and American.
Too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he got sworn in. He got naturalized, sworn in by Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Ooh.
It doesn't get much more American than that. So, anyway, we've got a lot going on. You can check it all out at strangeandbeautiful.club on our website. And that's probably the longest spiel I have ever given. I guess until next time, friends.
Bye.
Bye.